Whole show going crazy. Whole show going crazy. Top 5 we debating.
Top 5, top 5, top 5. Five Over Friends, the show where we debate our top 5 list on a topic chosen by a listener with the listener.
As usual, our friendship goes out the door once we get into it. This is 5 Over Friends. All right, so last episode that we had a couple weeks ago, before I took my hiatus, we had the presidential battle royale top 5. Unfortunately for Wes, yet again, he caught the fade. He did not survive.
Very close. Very close vote.
He did not survive the presidential battle royale. He pulled an Abe Lincoln, and that's probably what sent him to the wayside here. But for Wes's punishment, he will entertain us all with his rendition of the Pokemon theme song.
I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them, it's my real test. To train them is my cause. I will travel across the land, searching far and wide. Each Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. Gotta catch 'em all, it's you and me. It's my Pokemon. You're my
That was
best friend.
terrible.
In a world we must be fans. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all.
Wow, great job, Wes. That was horrible.
Thanks, everybody, for joining another episode of Five Over Friends. We're back after a 2-week hiatus for Seth. He welcomed in his second child a couple weeks ago, so congratulations to him, and glad to be back on the podcast. This week we have Seth's brother Tucker on to talk with us. And Tucker, introduce yourself and let us know what your topic is.
Well, he's Uncle Tuck now, times 2.
I am Uncle Tuck times 2. Hey, I'm Tucker. Yeah, I'm one of Seth's younger brothers. I'm a twin. Currently live in Denver, Colorado, which is very exciting. And the topic today is going to be, out of the original 150 Pokemon, what are the dopest, the coolest, and each of our favorites? And then we're going to debate about it, which is exciting. Pokemon's just something that, remember going home and I get on the Game Boy Color without the backlight or without the front light and just playing it for hours on end, even in a car until it got too dark to play. And then up into my adult life playing the trading card game competitively, traveling around to tournaments with Seth as well. So it's
that's the OG awesome life, when you could only play while it was light outside, because in the car, because they didn't have any backlight and no light. And you had, like, if you did have the light, it was that little like pillar light that came across, and you had a reading light. The side.
Yeah, I remember I used to, before I had one of those, I used to beg to turn the light on up in the back of the car, like the little light, and mom and dad would always be like, "No, you'll."
Every parent's like, "It's the worst thing ever. Yes. You'll get in a wreck in 5 seconds if you have this little dome light on."
So, I eventually just had to bite the bullet and ask for one of those the lights that went with it. Eventually for Christmas or birthday, I can't remember, and got one so that I could play it in the back of the car.
Well, Tuck talked about the Pokemon trading card game. Yes, I do have an adoration for the trading card game. I remember it was like GameStop was the only place to get the trading cards back in the day when Tuck and I were first getting into it. I think I was in like 5th or 6th grade, and Tucker was 4 years behind me. So we would always like beg mom, and we'd call up to GameStop like every 30 minutes to see if they got new Pokemon cards in. They always had them behind the counter, and they were in cardboard hangers at the time, so you could see them back there, and it was the best. Like, you always had to get your favorite starters Pokemon, like their evolved form, in the pack. So I'd always ask for the Blastoise packs.
I always remember how it always felt super bitchin' to me that where we grew up in Kansas City, there's this real trashy, what do they call it? The Apple Mart place. It was like like the Brass Armadillo. What do you call those places?
Oh, like a flea market?
Yeah, it was the flea market. But remember, we'd go downstairs and there was that one vendor off
Oh, they had the
Woody
Pokemon.
Highway.
He even
They
had like
always had
Japanese
Pokemon.
cards and German cards. I was like, oh, I gotta get a Japanese pack for $15. It
So
was 3 weeks allowance.
yeah, so Pokemon was there for me when, our mom wanted to go shopping in a flea market for 8 hours, and I was able to.
Look through the glass at these Pokemon cards. These are
Yeah.
all locked up.
I used to get them from we had like a little local card shop in our little small town. Then that's where I got my baseball cards and Pokemon cards and everything. It was, I used to beg to go after school. So yeah, Pokemon, and Pokemon definitely holds some fond memories of me playing Game Boy growing up. Nintendo 64, playing the Pokemon Stadium with friends, and the trading card game. And back then I didn't really know exactly how to play the trading card game. I think we made up rules as we went, because we were in like third or fourth grade. So it's like you just do whatever you want at that point. And
Oh, we were competitive from day one. We had we had it all down, or at least we thought we did. We have the majority of the rules down. I say we had like 95% of them down. But Pokemon Stadium, you had to have that expansion pack for the Game Boy
to put
game.
the Game Boy
stuck in
game
the
in.
bag.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
that was
yep.
dope.
That was
That's
awesome.
the first game that did that.
And you could like
the N64
play against your buddy, and he put his game in the back on the other controller, and you could both play. That was one of my favorite games, because my neighborhood growing up, there were like 4 of us guys that all around the same age that all lived beside each other and all played Pokemon. So that was why I like Pokemon Stadium so much. But so without further ado, let's get into our top 5s. Tucker, you want to get us started?
Yeah, my 5th is gonna be Onyx. Onyx is always my reasoning for this. Is Onyx, when red version and blue version came out in 1996, so I'm like 4 or 5 when I'm playing these games. Whenever I got a Game Boy gifted to me by our parents, Onyx was just bad, bro. You just walk up to Brock and he's just like, "What's up? I got a level 19 Onyx," and you're like, "Okay, I have a level 6 Pidgey and a 20 Charmander and a Weedle that's level 3," and I was like, "Oh, Onyx is cool." And then as I grew up, I was just thinking to myself, that is a very creative Pokemon to me. I mean, I also like rocks and stuff like that, but I was like, oh, he's a snake made out of rock. I guess it's not that creative when I say it out loud, but I like him. And he's got a horn.
Oh, he's a snake made of rock. He's really creative Pokemon.
I mean, but when you're 5 years old, that's super creative for sure.
Yeah, and I just remember beating my head against it, and I was like, I think Onyx deserves a spot out of respect, because when I was playing this game when I was 4 or 5, whatever it was, bro, I couldn't get past him. It wasn't happening.
You gotta level up that Charmander, bro.
Exactly. That's what I would just keep that Charmander in first spot and just get him so high that before I ever went in the gym, so that he would just I would half the time I'd get him so high that it would act out because the level was too high for how many badges I had. I don't know if you remember that.
So you're not a good Pokemon trainer, is what you're telling me.
I mean, I eventually wised up and didn't do that, but there were times when I was younger. It was like, do you want to like not let him level up because he will act out because of your not enough badges? Nope. Keep going higher. Let's go.
So I mean, like, to my point also, if I'm going to expand on it, Charmander is weak to rock, and pretty much all the Pokemon that you have access to, like Pidgey, is weak to rock. Everybody. It was like playing on hard mode when you chose Charmander to begin with, and just respect.
I can't hate it. I mean, he didn't make my list, but I definitely when scrolling through the top 150, the original 150 list there, I thought about him, but he didn't touch that top 10 that would make the top 5 in the honorable mentions for me.
Thought about him for like 0.205 seconds. I was scrolling through and I was like, oh, there's Onyx, and I just kept scrolling. Like, he's not even close to the top 5 for me. Like you said, he's real creative. He's a rock snake. I mean, he's a big ass snake, I guess.
Don't be rude.
And then I don't like that they like tried to expand it later on in Pokemon. I know we're focused on the 150, but I don't like that they turned him into Steelix later. Like that.
Don't get me started.
Like, don't do that to our OGs. Don't try to make them something they're not.
All right, Seth, let's hear your 5.
All right, my number 5. I'm going to go with the legendary bird Pokemon here. My favorite of the legendary birds. You'll find this character when you visit the power plant and you grab them with a couple Ultra Balls after smacking them down a little bit, it's going to be Zapdos. This is my dude right here. Although his overall strength isn't as strong as Moltres, and he doesn't have the defense that Articuno has, I think that he has an advantage as far as being an electric type Pokemon, especially like in the card game. So I'm thinking a lot of my thoughts in this kind of went to blue, red, yellow version, and then also the original base set, jungle and fossil sets of Pokemon. And he could do 170 damage. So that's knocking out a Charizard. He had no weakness, and he had resistance to fighting type Pokemon in the game. So I think the Zapdos is badass, and nobody wanted to be hit with that Thunderbolt. You see that coming, you're like, oh shit, that's a critical hit right there.
You said 170?
Super effective. Oh yeah, 170.
His basic card, I'm reading his basic card, and it says Thunderbolt, 4 energies, discard all energy attached to Zapdos, does 100. I'm just saying you're starting off with a lie.
What are you talking about here?
Got him.
You're right. Cut that out, Wes.
Oh, no, we're not cutting anything. we're leaving it.
I must have been looking at the wrong card. Shit.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, who in the base set did 170 when no one had hit those high hit?
That's what I thought, too, when I was reading through and I saw it was 170. There's got to be a Zapdos card in here somewhere that does 170.
Listeners.
So we're starting off with a lie on the hit point, on the hit damage there, and then you're also not even picking the best rare bird there.
All right, here we go. I was inadvertently looking at the Evolutions version of Zapdos when they bumped up their hit points in their damage attacks when they reprinted the base set. So that is
Evolutions
my mistake.
Set from 2015.
That is my mistake.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Correct. But either way, he's a badass. And when I think about the cards, like that was one of my favorite, like the graphics from that card, the drawing.
It was a sweet card, but the legendary bird to have is definitely Moltres. I'm sticking to that.
I'm sorry you feel that way. That's easy hits for any water type Pokemon. Like he's going down easily. Who you going to take against a fight against Zapdos? Who you taking with you?
Oh,
exactly. It's real tough to think about.
It's tougher, but
I could take a Squirtle to your damn Moltres.
Yeah,
Bring
but
out Squirtle.
Take water type. I mean, yes, it is. It's a little tougher to decide what. There's different ways you can attack an electric type, but I'm blanking off the top of my head who I would actually take. But
there it is, right there.
I think the pick was good. I mean, the card is aesthetically pleasing. I think it's probably the most basic of the legendary birds to pick. 1,000%.
Ooh, I don't know about that. But okay.
All right.
I mean, he's taking out the Articuno like with one hit. He thundering the Articuno going down. Easy. Weakness.
All right, I'll go ahead with my number 5. So this one goes. The logic for this one is from playing Game Boy Color, whatever version you want to say, yellow, red, blue, or whatever version you want to call it. The one Pokemon that I had in my Pokedex that I always used for flying around places, Pidgeot. So
oh God,
Seth's giving me a look here, but no, like this was a I would always level up my level up to Pidgeot, the evolution of Pidgeot, because that was like one of the first flying Pokemon you had, was Pidgey, and then get Pidgeotto, Pidgeot, and I would that would be my highest level flying one. So that's who I would want in my top 6 there to be able to fly around to places and to have a flying type in my arsenal. So that's why I picked it, because I used them all the time in the game. So
I think I just personally like the look of Pidgeotto better than I like the look of Pidgeot. So that's like why I don't like Pidgeot.
I don't disagree.
Like Pidgeotto is a doper looking Pokemon.
The graphics of it are a little better for Pidgeotto, but that wasn't what I took into account. It was that was the highest level flying type I always had in my Pokedex. So that's who I used for flying around and battling with a flying type.
I mean, my number 5 could just blow air at ears, and then you'd be like fried chicken. But,
well, I have a legendary bird on my honorable mention. I did consider putting my favorite legendary bird into my top 5, but I did not. So I kept my top 5 one of each type, and with that legendary bird having that dual type there, he did not make the cut because of that. So that's what I'll say there. And so with that being said, I'll go ahead and start the snake again and go with my number 4 here. Squirtle. Squirtle is my number 4. It is, for me, the second best base starting out Pokemon that you can pick. I'm not a huge water type fan. I didn't use a bunch of water type. I would only have a water type if I needed to swim most of the time, or unless I pick Squirtle as my starter type, my starter Pokemon. But and got all the way up to Blastoise. Not much to be said beyond that. Squirtle, the starters are always going to be loved. Some of the most loved Pokemon. I did not go with our grass starter, but anywhere on my list because I'm not a big grass type guy. But
I mean, I like Squirtle. Squirtle was always my starter. I am a water type guy. I really have always liked the water types. And Squirtle's just dope because he's part of a gang in general. Got that Squirtle gang in the old Kanto cartoons. So I like the pick. If you're gonna pick a starter, I say pick Squirtle. That's my dude. He doesn't have a weakness to the Onyx. When you get to Brock, I think it's helpful to have Squirtle to get over that first hump of the the first gym leader. So I like that pick. It's not a bad pick. Not on my list. Not really even considered for my list. But if you're going to pick a starter to be on your list, I like that one. So that's really all I got to say about it.
I think the only thing cool about Squirtle is the first time you see him wear sunglasses.
Yeah, he's dope.
I mean, I'm not hating your pick. I'm just saying. I think, he climaxed real early in the season.
Oh. All right.
Let's hear your number 4, Seth.
Well, let me make sure I got my factual.
Yeah, we don't want to hit. This guy hits 250 base card. No, nothing else. 250 will wipe out every player.
That's an honest mistake. I saw the exact same graphic, and it was just a newer print. So that is my mistake. But this one I definitely will not get wrong because number 4 is Charizard on my list. Like that's the dopest base set card ever. I remember not really arguing, but negotiating for at least 6 months for this girl in my 6th grade classes, Charizard. Like I wanted Charizard so bad, and she hated me so much that she just eventually gave it over for something really terrible trade because I pestered her every day, all day until she gave me Charizard because I could never pull him myself.
The only negative thing I have to say about that is where you've got him. I'm a Charizard fan myself. I think 4 is a little low, but at least he's in your top 5. That's what I'll say about that one.
Well, I feel like he's a pretty complex character in the cartoons also. So his original trainer kind of left him because he said he was too weak and that he was going to come back, quote unquote, for him. And Charmander was so loyal, he just stayed out in the rain and almost let his flame go out on his tail. And, for those of you real Pokemon fans, if the flame goes out on the Charmander's tail, then he proceeds to pass away. So Ash saved him, and then they had like a love-hate relationship kind of throughout the seasons. But Charmander evolving into Charizard, very loyal Pokemon, got a little swagger to him. The best Pokemon card in the base set, so definitely a top 5 Pokemon for me in the OG 150. Charizard, number 4.
I think it's a good pick. I mean, I think Charizard's aesthetically one of the coolest Pokemon there is. I think my problem with him and Charmeleon and the show was that Homie's just got too much attitude. He doesn't listen to Ash for shit.
You got to make that bond, like it was like Ash is almost like Wes. Like Wes couldn't control his starting Pokemon because he got them built up too quick. Ash didn't have the skills to control, Charizard until he kind of let it go and let Charizard be himself.
It wasn't.
You gotta let
It
him
wasn't
grow.
that though. I just want to let you guys know. Here it is. Seth can fact check me. Lies again. He doesn't listen to Ash because while he was Charmeleon, Ash made him lose to a weaker Pokemon. And he's like, I'm just gonna have an attitude about it.
Yeah, that's like the number one player on your. It's like a world-class athlete right there, right? Like you got to have the right coach to coach him up. The coach
So you're
got to
saying
put him in
Ash
their
Ketchum,
place sometime.
the world's greatest, is not the right coach.
And that's why
He had to grow.
Charizard should be higher on your list than 4. If he needs even better than the world class trainer, he's just too strong for that trainer.
Oh God.
He is the best Pokemon.
Well, this entire conversation goes to my point that he had a very intriguing personality on the show, which I liked and made him my number 4.
That's good.
Yep. All right, we'll move on to Tuck's number 4.
Yeah, my number 4 is gonna be Mr. Mime. I think Mr. Mime's bad. He's Delia's or Miss Ketchum's assistant. I mean, use your imagination potentially. We don't know what's happening. It does say that in the Fire Red Pokedex that Mr. Mime is a con artist and is good at conning
The fact you're even
people.
insinuating that they had some kind of sexual relationship with Ash's mom is ridiculous.
Okay, then I would invite you to just Google who is Ash Ketchum's dad, and you tell me what pops up. You tell me. But besides those, Mr. Mime's just bad, bro. His abilities are amazing. How he can construct walls. I remember that one of the most annoying things that ever happened to me when I was playing a card game with Seth is that his favorite card was Mr. Mime, which drove me nuts because he has this stupid Pokemon power, which drives me insane, which says something like, whenever an attack does 30 or more, Mr. Mime doesn't get hit. And so it's like a late game play. If you know who Seth is, it's like, oh, all your Pokemon are evolved. I'm going to throw out Zapdos who does 170. And he plays as Mr. Mime, and you can't hurt him. But I just think his powers are really cool. It's a timeless character. I think that he was a very funny character in Detective Pikachu. I thought they nailed that pretty good, especially the range of emotions that Mr. Mime can feel. And I also say that that's another aspect is he has a lot of human characteristics, and throughout the TV show Detective Pikachu and portrayed through comics or whatever, he has a lot of emotions and he likes to express those in creative ways. And I think that's why he's number 4. I think it's dope.
Yeah, I think for the show purposes, I think I don't hate the pick. I could see why somebody would put him in there for the show purposes, but for the game purposes, like if you were to play,
you ain't taking Mr. Mime to the Elite Four, like
no.
What the hell?
So for the game purposes, I don't like the pick, but I understand the pick for the show purposes. That's my.
This FiveOverFriends isn't about which 5 are you gonna go fight the Elite Four with. It's which ones are cool. And this one's cool.
I'm gonna take my cool ones to go fight the Elite Four and win me.
Yeah. What? I mean, winning's cool to me. If you ain't first, you're last. To throw back a couple episodes, like I ain't taking a weak Pokemon who can't even say a word.
But I do understand where you're coming from on the show, the show line and the Detective Pikachu. I understand that, but yeah, I'm not taking him into battle with me.
That's fine.
By the way, if you think he's getting it on with Ash's mom, the dude's only 4'3" tall. So like that's gonna be interesting.
All right.
You're the one that looked that up. That's what's interesting to me. Okay.
It's a Pokedex up here in the brain, buddy.
Yeah. Says Mr. 170 hit points.
That's not part of the game. That's trading card.
All right. Tuck, let's hear that number 3.
My number 3 is going to come in Ghost type Gengar.
I knew that was going to be on the list.
Because you know how much I love the guy. I think Gengar's just bad. I think that his whole evolution line from Ghastly to Haunter, and then Gengar is pretty cool. I love the idea in the game aspects how using a ghost against a lot of people just screws them over unless they're fire, because a lot of people can't hurt you, which I always thought was pretty cool. And then I also enjoyed Gengar being a part of the game, and to get Gengar, you had to trade for him. You had to find a buddy. You had to get out that little 5-inch cord, stand next to each other, and then trade. They'll probably trade you a Graveler or something, so you can get a Golem out of the deal or whatever it is. But I just thought that was a really cool aspect of Gengar as well, is that it made the red and blue versions feel a little bit more exclusive. Like you couldn't just play it by yourself, but also it was promoting the community aspect too, and to go find someone else that you could work with. I mean, to caveat that, you don't really have to trade for anything specifically. Someone could just give you a Weedle, and then you get a Gengar out of it if they trade you back. Like that's another.
You gotta trust them. There's that trust.
I can see a fight breaking out in school. Like, oh, you said you would trade me right back. Oh, I'm gonna hurt you. I'm gonna go tell the teacher.
So Wes was a tattler.
No,
in elementary school.
I was not. I was the kid that did take his Game Boy and like tried to play it and hide it, and then get home and my parents would go through my book bag and realize I took my Game Boy, and then I didn't. They'd take it away for a week.
And then the next week you do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
I am with you, Tucker. I actually really like the evolution of Gengar. I like the Ghastly to Haunter to Gengar. I think Haunter is actually kind of a cooler Pokemon in general than Gengar. I just think the look of him is a little bit more of what I think of when I think of a ghost Pokemon. I think of Haunter. It looks more like a ghost to me. But Gengar is super dope. He has some really cool attacks and effects that he can put on the game, both in game and in the trading card game also. He's had several different cards that have some really cool Poke Powers and things of that nature. So I actually really like Gengar. He made my honorable mentions, spoiler alert, because I think it's a good pick. I don't know if he's not top 5 for me, but he's up there. I think he's powerful, and I like the fact that you brought up that certain Pokemon can't even damage him. I think that's dope.
Yeah, the other thing, for me, just to expand on this a little bit, is it was just a timeless combo for me when I would be battling somebody or I was fighting in the Elite Four or something. It's just a timeless combo to put someone to sleep and then just do work on them. And that's what Gengar does.
And then you go up against like a Hitmonlee and a Hitmonchan, they can't even touch you. Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, and I didn't really think about him for my list, but I no hate against the pick at all. That's one I can't give any crap for.
All right, so I think it's my number 3, and this one is like when I think of I feel like a lot of people when they think of Pokemon, they think of this Pokemon, other than Pikachu. Like, of course, Pikachu is the face of Pokemon in America or whatever, but Gyarados. I think Gyarados is super sick. I think he is.
There were plenty
incredible.
Pokemon you could have said there, and I would have guessed you were going to say the second face of Pokemon, and Gyarados is not the one that I thought was going to come out of your mouth. There was a dozen other ones before that.
I don't think he's the second face of Pokemon, but when you think of like badass Pokemon, I feel like a lot of people think Gyarados is badass, and I think Gyarados is badass.
I think he's badass. He was one when I was going through. He was one I considered for that top 10 list that I whittled down to a top 5, but he didn't quite make the top 10. But
one of the things I like most about Gyarados is that he evolves from such a weak little Pokemon. You have Magikarp who literally just flails. Like that's it. He flails.
And I remember fishing just to catch a Magikarp to then put them in spot 1. And then as soon as the battle started, you switch him out of spot 1 so that you just get the half.
He gets half those EAXP. Yep. Exactly, because you want just that. Everybody wants Gyarados. Everybody wants him because he's dope.
I love that. And if people want to talk about the elementary school hustle, the hustle's getting in Gyarados. That motherfucker's a grind, bro. It's just hard. Because when you're able to get Magikarp or whatever, you're like, okay, I could be one-shotted all the time. And then, so you're rolling with your 6 Pokemon, you put in Magikarp, you're rolling 5 deep. Likely, whoever you're fighting is going to do work on whoever you're going to throw in next. You just got to sacrifice them. Man, it's rough.
But that situation is one where I just walk around and try and strengthen up Magikarp before I ever battle anybody, though. You gotta go walk through the wild and just try to get him a little bit.
Wes is investing 250 hours into the Pokemon
Yeah.
before he ever battles anyone. So
You're really grinding. I get it. The other cool thing about Gyarados, though, which I respect the pick, is how I'm saying this because it is part of 150. But if you guys ever played or remember in the silver and gold versions, there's that always that option where you can get the red one,
the shiny.
and that was bad because
Yeah,
that was like the
red
first time.
Gyarados is sick.
Yeah, that was the first time that I believe someone can fact check me, but there's an alternate color scheme on a Pokemon. I'm like, that's tough.
Well, and then back to the cartoon, like James had him from Team Rocket, and he had Magikarp, and he thought he was so weak. And then like he and Ash, and the squad needed to eat, but they couldn't eat Magikarp because he's just bones and scales. So he kicks Magikarp, and like he evolves into Gyarados, and a whole team of Gyarados like blast him off into the.
But I mean, I'm just gonna say that's a problem for me because we're sitting here talking about the grind to get a Gyarados, and James kicked him, right?
There was a whole buildup of things that Magikarp had been through, like over the weeks prior to evolving. But yeah, Gyarados.
I'm sure he had a community forum to
Super
express his
sick.
feelings about that too.
All right, Wes, number 3.
I'll go with my 3. This was my legendary Pokemon on my top 5. I went with Mewtwo. For me, that was the one that you walked around trying to find. The legendary birds, I always try to get them as well, but the Mewtwo was the one that was that was the legendary one I had to have. And didn't have as many psychic Pokemon. That wasn't something I typically had a bunch of. There was one other that made my honorable mention list, psychic, that I liked a lot, that I tried to also have in my Pokédex, but Mewtwo, that's my number 3.
I like that pick a lot. I think Mewtwo's dope. I mean, the whole game's sort of build up is to getting him, but also if you throw it back to that first movie, I don't know what it's called, right? One of my favorite things is like
Pokemon, the first movie.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Is right? So you're sitting there, like, think about this. You're sitting somewhere in a class or something, and you read out the quote, "I see now that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are." Someone's like, "Oh shit, that's fucking Gandhi, bro. That's Buddha." Motherfucker, that's Mewtwo. In the first movie.
Mewtwo was Pokemon's Gandhi.
I respect the pick because this dude, he's the only Pokemon that can speak, in a way that the trainers can hear him, which is dope. But also, I mean, he's inspirational.
Yeah, and he wasn't going to crack my top 2, but I had to slot him in at 3. My top 2 are my 2 favorite all-time Pokemon, base 1
All right.
or not.
So what's number 2 then?
Number 2, I'm going Pikachu.
Oh God!
There's going to be some people. I don't even know if y'all are going to put him. I don't even know what y'all are going to do. I'm assuming somebody's going to have him at 1, but
I can tell you, he wasn't.
Bro, ain't nobody got him at 1 except for you. That's a
I
terrible
wasn't in
pick.
my honorable mentions.
That is a trash pick.
Well, I don't understand why it's a trash pick. I love Pikachu, man. I love me some Pikachu. It's the face of Pokemon, man. I don't understand why y'all hating on Pika.
He's the face of Pokemon, but he's not anywhere near the top 5 coolest Pokemon. Like, he's loyal to Ash, but other than that, like
Pika.
I mean,
whoa, man, that's dope. He goes Pika a lot.
I get where you're coming from, Wes. I mean, I'm pretty sure Charizard's your number 1 based on some of the stuff we talked about earlier.
I don't know where you're getting that from.
And you said it's good that Charizard has attitude. Bro, Pikachu has attitude. Ash tried to evolve this motherfucker like 5 times. He's like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to stay weak.
I hate that they made Pichu. Like, Pikachu was just fine, and then they tried to make
he didn't need the
so disrespectful. I hated that.
But
and then they wanted to put Pichu in Smash Brothers too. Also, Pikachu is a good pick because in Smash Brothers Ultimate, He's pretty fire, to be
He
honest.
is good.
Yeah, but I just think as the face of Pokemon, as somebody, I always tried to catch one and have them in my Pokedex and use them in my 6. So that was a favorite.
Did you evolve him? Did you evolve him to Raichu?
No.
No, you kept him Pikachu?
Bro,
I never evolved Pikachu.
I was gonna say, I love the fact that you
Because
said
he wouldn't let you.
you literally said, I think Pikachu's the face of Pokemon. Like, bro, no shit. His face is everywhere.
Okay. But okay. So that's my 2. What's your 2?
Yeah, he's getting smashed by literally every Pokemon we've talked about so far.
I don't care. We talked coolest, dopest, and I'll take a high level Pika into battle with me. I'm not hating on that.
All right, I'll take your high level Pika into battle against my number 2, Dragonite. Dragonite is super dope. Dude is gigantic. He's the first giant Pokemon that we come across in the cartoon. At that lighthouse scene, and he's got those glowing eyes, like super sick. He is said to have the intelligence that matches that of a human. So he's not only big, bad, burly, but he's also intelligent. And I think he has a lot going for him. He's got a lot of the hyper beam. He's got body slam. He can fly. He was unfortunately Mewtwo's pawn in the first movie. He was the mail carrier, but I feel like there's a reason Mewtwo picked him as the mail carrier. He could rely on him. He knew he'd come through in the clutch. So Dragonite number 2.
I think a lot of it depends on which human we're talking about the intelligence of. So if we're talking,
it's clearly not you. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we're talking your intelligence, then that's not doing a whole lot for me on the Pokemon. But myself or Tucker, maybe that'll help the Pokemon a little bit.
I really hate your pick, to be honest with you, Seth.
What is bad about that pick right there?
You have Dragonite, and then you have Dragonite's you, and then the boy that your girl tells you not to worry about is Charizard, which you have at 4. It just doesn't make sense to me. Dragonite looks like Charizard with a dad bod.
He does. I will say that. I agree.
Like he's got soft features.
You know how many women love that dad bod, baby? Like they loving on that dad bod.
I can't call it.
You talking to a dad right here.
But I don't know. Dragonite's cool. Yeah. That's Pokemon 149, whatever you want to say. But I mean, number 2.
You couldn't have put it any better than the one your girl told you not to worry about versus you, etc. Meme or he's basically discount Charizard as far as 100%. What he looks like.
He actually had much better stats in the original games.
We're talking Charizard here, man. We're talking graphics and looks, and he looked like
graphics and looks. Okay.
Like, bro, I'm sorry. Like, I appreciate and respect your thing, but if you Google Dragonite right now, and the first 3 photos of him is him waving, bro. Literally him waving.
He's waving at your woman, boy. Mr. Steal Your Girl over here.
No, that's Charizard. Right. Where do you establish that?
And you're talking, Wes, earlier you said, I think the dopest Pokemons are the ones that I can take into battle with me. And then I just told you that Dragonite is stronger than Charizard, and you tried to discount it. So I don't know what you're saying.
I took Charizard into battle with me, man. I took Charizard into battle with me every time, and I won a lot of Elite Fours.
And he didn't reign supreme.
Level 100 Charizard will do damage on just about anybody. So
he'll take one to the gut from Dragonite.
You're dumb.
All right, Tuck. Let's hear that number 2.
My number 2 is I'm gonna tell y'all a story. So Seth's in 5th, 6th grade. I'm in 1st or 2nd. Can't call it, whatever it is. Homeboy comes into the car all excited. Hands me a Pokemon card. Guess who it is? It's Charmander, bro. And Charmander's on my list because it's like that's the first Pokemon I ever got introduced to. So there's a cool factor for me. I think the art on the first Pokemon card, his basic, is pretty cool. He's like looking away that he doesn't want you to see that he's looking, but he is.
He's doing like that model pose. Yeah, I know.
Right? He's just like, what's up? But then, and then he turns into Charizard, right? But it's also it's the struggle. As it has been expressed, Charmander starts off. He's got the biggest heart. Obviously, he's staying out there in the rain, almost dying, sacrificing himself. But then he doesn't take no shit. And he's like, Ash, okay, I see what you're doing. Let's play. But yeah, I just think Charmander's cool. I think he's, in my opinion, the best starter Pokemon, bar none, hands down. Which is cool.
Agreed
The other
completely.
aspect of all that is
I can't get with him being the best starter Pokemon if he has a
Bro, get out of
weakness to one of the other starter Pokemon, like a major weakness.
Okay, so all right. So you just want to play the game on easy mode, basically, by picking Squirtle. That's what you're saying.
I'm just saying I don't think it's very intelligent to pick that as your number one.
Right, but all you have to do is catch another Pokemon pretty soon off to be able to combat that water weakness.
And then run around for 250 hours trying to charge him up against all these wild Pokemon so you can take them into battle.
But then that Charmander is strong against plenty of other stuff that you're not gonna. It's really strong against a lot of other stuff that you're gonna need early on. Like
didn't we already establish that he's weak to Brock's Onix, which is
the
first
Onix,
gym leader?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, get the hurdles out of the way. Duh. And then you start bossing out. I mean, isn't the second okay, you're right. I guess the second one's Cerulean City, and you gotta fight water next. You gotta fight Mint. It is
exactly. Yeah. It's a terrible start.
But then it gets
Charmander.
It's only up from there, though.
Yeah. I mean, you're fighting Sabrina. Oh, he's smashing. You're fighting what's his name? Koga? What's the dude's name? With all the poison Pokemon. Well, he's putting in work on them too. Yeah, but then the other thing that I just think is cool, and I guess this could be cheating because I'm saying Charmander, but also the evolution line. He changes types, bro. He goes from on the ground to a flying dragon. It's just amazing. Like, that's dope.
So he's as dope as Butterfree, is what you're telling me.
You're just being rude.
Don't hit on Butterfree.
I'm just saying, bro. You're talking about going from the ground to having some wings. That's Butterfree right there. That's Beedrill.
Yeah, it's a butterfly.
It's a dragon. Like, it's going to have wings.
All right, Tuck, let's hear that one.
You're getting me heated. My number one is Eevee.
Oh, my God. What? About falling in my chair over here. Eevee
bad.
What prompted Eevee being your number one? I've got to hear this.
Tucker trying to pick up Eevee on Tinder. He's like, Eevee bad.
Okay. That's cool.
Talk about Mr. Mime.
Eevee's like a fox. So
Eevee's just cool because, like, okay, you want Vaporeon? Let's get him. You want Jolteon? Let's get it. You want Flareon? It's one Pokemon that you can get, and then you can transform into the Pokemon that you're actually desiring for your team or your collection or whatever. And I think that's a really cool thing, right? There's Ditto, but there's no other Pokemon that you can transform into any other element that you want. And in the base games, it's, water, fire, and electric, which is cool. But then, like, moving forward into these new generations, he can go into any other element except for Ghost and Dragon, I think, right now. And I just think, like, that's a really cool aspect of Eevee. Very utility player.
That's an interesting point. It doesn't mean it should be one, but there is some versatility there. He's like your sixth man off the bench, but
no, he's your number one man on the bench. He's the MVP.
Yeah, keep him on the bench.
Yeah, on the bench is very well.
I mean, I understand kind of your thought process behind that, but I feel like you're kind of stretching. You're kind of reaching on this because you keep picking these base Pokemon. You keep picking these base Pokemon, and then you're talking about every single evolution that could happen. Like, well, yeah. I mean, if I'm going to pick one Pokemon that could turn into 3 different ones, I mean, I guess. But that one Pokemon that you picked is super weak until you evolve them.
Did you just make that same point about Gyarados?
Yeah, but I picked Gyarados. Like, I picked the evolution. I didn't pick the little weak one.
I don't know which one I want. Obviously, that's the cool
See,
thing.
and there's your indecision right there, and that's why
It,
Eevee
no,
can't be number one.
no, it's game time decision, bro. And bro, don't be playing on my phone saying something like, "Oh, you pick basics and stuff, bro." You're the one to pick legendary, like a basic person, bro. You got Wes over here picking the face of the game too. Is his number 2?
Terrible pick number 2. All right, I don't like Eevee at all. I think that's a terrible selection for number 1 Pokemon in the game. No, and
Not in the game. The coolest, the dopest. That's the point.
okay, whatever. The game, the card, the whole shebang. Eevee is definitely not the dopest Pokemon. Like, if you think that's the
Okay.
dopest Pokemon, no.
Okay,
I'm sure the listeners will agree.
with me, yeah, probably.
All right.
I doubt it. Highly doubt it. But we'll see. We'll see how the votes come out.
Number 1 Pokemon. This is easy. It's Mewtwo. Like, Mewtwo's the sickest Pokemon ever. This guy, he's the strongest Pokemon. He's like one of the most intelligent Pokemon. He's created by a scientist after years of horrific gene splicing and DNA engineering experiments. And after all of that experiments, it was proved that he was too mighty to control, destroying the laboratory and escaping from the exact place which he originated.
Cool, you can Google a story.
No, that's just facts. I mean, you can watch the first movie, and like we talked about when you mentioned him at, I think 3, Wes.
Yeah, 3.
For me, it's the ultimate Pokemon. Like, you play the entire game to finally be able to get Mewtwo.
Yeah, and I agree that was the one that I was always chasing, but I didn't have to have him to beat the game. It's just the one, like, that's the one for me. My top 2, I picked 2 that I pretty much always kept to the end in my top 6s. Like, those were 2 of my highest level, strongest Pokemon, and that was my fire type and my electric type that I kept in my top 6.
Well, I'm
So
glad
I
that you
feel
didn't
like-
need him to beat the game, because you can't get him until you beat the Elite Four and your rival. So you couldn't even have him to try to win the game.
Right, but point being is that was why my one, like, those are my favorite Pokemon, and like those were, I always use them to beat the game. So it's like they held a higher place for me than just the legendary.
Seth, I feel like you just Googled, like, what Pokemon do people like?
Dude, Mewtwo's my favorite Pokemon of all time. Like, he's always been my favorite Pokemon. I think he's badass. He takes over your mind. Like, he plays those mind games. He controlled like half of the Pokemon population in the movie. Like, this dude was taking over the world. And then
And that's
he
the good thing.
found a softer side, you know?
It's not a
Right.
bad pick.
All right, Wes, give us your number 1.
All right. This is going to be a shock to everyone in the room, everyone listening, all of you that have made it this far. Going with Charizard as my number 1. The best Pokemon in the game to me. That was the one that always stayed in my top 6, took to battle with me. Typically my highest level Pokemon, because Charmander was always, I went Charmander every time off the start for them, and occasionally I'd switch it up and go with the Squirtle pick from earlier. And if I was going to switch it up, it would be Squirtle, no Bulbasaur. But yeah, Charizard, that's the best Pokemon. He has the best evolution line, in my opinion. Charmander's already been discussed on Tucker's list. So that is the conclusion of my top 5.
He has the best evolution line? You think Charmeleon is that great of a stage 1?
Do you think War Turtle's that great of a stage 1?
I'm not saying Wartortle is.
But
Last
you
week
like-
would
you
make
like-
my list, bro.
You like Squirtle as your favorite starter. I love the nostalgia and of that starter Pokemon. Charmander was always my starter Pokemon. I love that. That was my favorite evolution line up to Charizard. That's just, I didn't dislike any of the 3. Those were at the time, at each time in my playing the game, whenever I had a Charmander, Charmeleon, or Charizard, like, those were my favorite Pokemon. Those were my highest ranked Pokemon. That was my strongest one. So that's why they're my number one spot. Like, I'm not going to put all three on my list, but that evolution line up to Charizard is my favorite.
What version was your first Pokemon game?
Red.
No, there it goes.
Yeah.
His favorite Pokemon's Charizard. What do you think?
Yeah, Red
I was wondering if like you picked Red because you like Charizard, or if you like Charizard because he was on the box.
I think that
what
may
came
have
first,
probably
the
played
chicken or
a
the
factor
egg?
in it. I mean, but I think shortly after I ended up with a red, yellow, and blue having all three. But yeah, I think Red was definitely the first one for me that I got.
Gotcha.
And so I'll go with my recap here. I'll recap my top 5 and give my honorable mentions. So 5 is Pidgeot, 4 is Squirtle, 3 is Mewtwo, 2 is Pikachu, 1 is Charizard. And then my honorable mentions, 1 was Charmander. You could throw Charmeleon in there too, to be honest with you. Loved all 3 of those. 2, I went Alakazam, somebody who has not been mentioned yet, but to catch his base.
Abra, who kept teleporting away from you.
Abra.
Freaking hated that every time.
Every time if you didn't catch him on the first Pokeball or the first Ultra Ball or whatever, he'd run. He'd teleport, and so you couldn't try to damage him, you couldn't weaken him to get him because they would run every time. So it was one of those you had to like catch him on the first try. So that's a pretty cool elusive Pokemon that's a tough one to get in your Pokedex. And then I like the evolution up to Alakazam. This one is just a sheer liking the character and the art. Snorlax is an honorable mention for me. Just being the big giant teddy bear that could just eat a lot of hit points.
He's the William Taft of Pokemon.
Yeah.
Throwback to last episode.
Number 4 was one that also hasn't been brought up, and I don't really have a particular reason for liking this one other than just having caught them and used them and liking. I really like fire type, Rapidash. So
I like that.
It's just a fire horse essentially, and then
all these creative Pokemon. We have the rock snake and the fire horse.
And then the last one, the legendary bird. My favorite legendary bird, Moltres. Yeah,
you are a fire type.
Yeah, and I loved fire type Pokemon, and obviously you've got to have some things that can fight your water types there in your top 6, but for whatever reason I had an affinity to the fire types.
I just love how Seth just said, like, he's reading astrology. You are a fire type.
I mean, he had like a million fire types. He's like, I got Charmander. You could go ahead and throw Charmeleon in there. I got Rapidash. I got Moltres.
And I told you that's why I gave myself the strict one type in my top 5, because I know that if I had done my top 5 like off of just my favorites from the game, there would have been like 3 fires in there, and I didn't want to do that. That's not.
I'm surprised for liking fire types that you picked Rapidash over Arcanine.
I did consider Arcanine, but I always have the negative connotation of Arcanine because of him being with the bad guys.
Being with Blaine?
Mm-hmm.
Did Blaine have him?
Yeah.
We're making that up.
No,
yeah, I think he did. I'm pretty sure.
Nice.
So I always had he was like the one of the bad Pokemon.
Yeah.
He's the bad boy.
All right, my top 5 and some honorable mentions. Number 5, Zapdos. Number 4, Charizard. Number 3, Gyarados. Number 2, Dragonite. Number 1, Mewtwo. Then my honorable mentions. I had Gengar, which I mentioned earlier when Tuck brought him up at his number 3, I think. I also have Alakazam on mine. Alakazam was cool. He came at you with those spoons, and he just showed how badass he was, and he'd bend them in front of you and float them around or whatever. I think Cloyster is super underrated. Especially in like the game, Cloyster was really strong, and I feel like he never gets any love, especially because he comes from that goofy looking little shelter.
Yeah, bro, you do that clamp move, and you tie him up for 2 to 5 turns. They can't even do anything.
Yeah, Cloyster's dope. And then I have Scyther. I just think Scyther has always been super cool looking. I think he's a dope.
He was one that I thought about when I was going through and whittling it down to my my 10. I think he's a really cool looking one. I didn't carry many grass type because I think they're pretty weak for the most part, but it's very cool looking.
I think Scyther's dope.
And I
With the
think
Safari Zone.
yeah, and for like when it comes to the cards in Jungle, I like that he was a good base, and you can kind of get him out there pretty quickly, and do some damage. And then my last honorable mention is Pikachu, just because it's Pikachu. I mean,
Yeah, see,
it is what
you
it
say
is.
you say because it's Pikachu, and after giving me so much crap for having him up in my top 5, like it's Pikachu. Like that is the face of Pokemon. He's like, you can't say because it's Pikachu and then also give someone crap for having him in the top 5. If those
I can have him in an honorable mention at number 10, just because it's Pikachu. But you have him at number 2 of the all-time dopest Pokemon. Like, come on,
he's the face of Pokemon. Like,
yeah,
how is
I
that?
understand.
That carries a lot of weight.
It does in the merchandise sales and things of that nature.
And I loved him in the game. Like he was like high when you got him a high to his high level to take to competitions like that or against higher badges and the Elite Four eventually. Like he was a good high level electric. I thought it's been a long time since I've done that, but if you get him up there in the high levels, I think he's on top of being the face. He's a very good one to take to battle.
I do think he resonates really well with children.
Yeah,
which is a huge plus.
And that's probably why he's the face. I definitely agree with that. He is a relatable character to the younger demographic.
Are you telling me you relate to Pikachu?
I don't relate to Pikachu. I'm saying as a child, falling in love with Pokemon in the game, you relate to Pikachu, and then there's nostalgic feelings to that.
All right, Tuck, give us your top 5 and your honorable mentions.
My top
over
5.
Pikachu.
Yeah, so my number 1 was actually for all of my list. I'll just say that I made it a point to not choose any legendary Pokemon, because I just personally felt like that is I don't know, maybe it's just too hipster, too mainstream. Who knows? Number 1, Eevee. 2, Charmander. 3, Gengar. 4, Mr. Mime. 5's Onyx. My honorable mentions were Arcanine. I always thought he was really cool. Hypno. I always thought Hypno was pretty cool. I really enjoyed putting people to sleep in the game. Like that was a cool tactic.
I'm sensing that theme.
Yeah. And then also, so there was like 2 plays. I would say that, even playing the card games competitively, that the last major tournament I went to a few years ago with Seth, the whole Dex theme, which is pretty cheeky, was just to put people to sleep.
That was your entire strategy, like just sleep them to death.
But like once you put them to sleep, it was pretty much game over. It's just once I had to just do it successfully and have a turn. But yeah, I would say the ghost type psychic would definitely be where I would identify. My other honorable mentions were Snorlax. I just think it's pretty cool. He's another face of the game. I liked Electrode a lot. I think Electrode's pretty cool just because it looks like a Pokeball and just blows up all the time. And it is what it is. And the last honorable mention I had, which I think deserves respect because I commonly took him to fight the Elite Four because of his versatility was Poliwrath. Because he can do the dynamic punch and pretty much do what Machamp can do, but he's also a water type, so you can play into a lot of weaknesses.
I'm surprised Electrode in that whole evolution line didn't get more face time as like a possible face beside like Pikachu is obviously the face, but wasn't more popular because it did look like a Pokeball.
I feel like as far as marketing goes, it would have been hard to do that because it does look so much like a Pokeball.
I agree with that. And I also think that, I mean, it's an honorable mention because I enjoy him, but aesthetically, out of all the Pokemon, they probably spent the least amount of time making that one. It's a circle, a line, and a smiley face. You got a Pokemon.
It's like a grimace. I remember you used to self-destruct all the time in the game. And then they have like the They had that power at one point in the card game where you could self-destruct and then it could be attached as 2 types of energy of any type.
Yeah. And
So,
I think some of my reasoning goes into like playing in card game and such, because that was a deck that I used to use where, yeah, the objective was you blow yourself up, which did, knocked yourself out, but you did exponential damage to your opponent, but then you got a benefit of free energy as well. I don't know. It was a cool.
all right, so that wraps up this episode of Five Over Friends, top 5 Pokemon from the OG 150. Appreciate you coming on the show, Tuck. As my brother, it's fun to kind of talk about Pokemon all over again and look back on some of the things that got us into Pokemon, some of that nostalgia, and then talk about some of the card games too. So appreciate you coming on and for suggesting the topic.
Thanks for having me, guys. Cheers.
Yeah, it was a blast.
All right. Well, thanks for listening this week. We appreciate you tuning in. As always, feel free to suggest any topics for us to debate with you via our Instagram story. This was quite an interesting topic, I think, Wes, something that you and I both felt like we, at least at one point in our lives, knew a lot about and had some passion about our top 5 for. So I like this one a lot.
Yeah, there was a time when Pokemon was like my favorite hobby in life. So that it's definitely very nostalgic and good to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. And we, again, appreciate you for listening to this episode. Be sure to leave us a review, a like, and get your friends to try to listen to the podcast. That's one thing that we really are hoping that we can do is interact with more and more people and get more people on the show, kind of outside of our scope of friends and our scope of family. So please do us that favor. Thank you for listening, and we're out.
Later.
Hey guys, it's Seth. When Wes and I decided to start our podcast, we used Anchor because it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And they'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's essentially everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Thanks for supporting our show, Five Over Friends.
We hope you'll join us next week as we debate a new topic.
Don't forget to submit topics on our latest Instagram post for a chance to be our next guest debating your top 5.
Subscribe, rate the show, and share with your friends to help us grow.
See y'all next week.